Good afternoon, my name is Tumi Tladi and welcome to my YouTube channel. If this is the first time that you're watching any of my videos, particularly this video, or if you just happen to have bumped into this video, I'm gonna urge you to watch my other previous videos because this channel has nothing but good quality content. If you're a developer, if you are into IT space, if you are into C#, if you are into MVC, if you're into Web API, version control, SQL, Visual Studio, this is the right channel for you. So with that being said, let's quickly look at our document so we can see what we need to do today. So I'm still busy with a mini series on Web API, and previously we covered this feature called feedbacks, and today we're going to talk about another incredible feature called phone numbers. So this is what we're going to be doing today. Now, I quickly want to go to Visual Studio because we need to push some stuff to the cloud before we talk about what we need to do. So as you can see, I'm currently on the master branch, and with that being said, please watch my other previous series on version control. I covered every single thing that you see here. Please give yourself time to watch the entire playlist. I still intend to do part 4 of CI/CD pipelines on Azure DevOps. So everything I'm going to be doing right now, it's part of a version control from the current branch, which is master branch, and list of all other branches. There's committee that has updated this master branch, and what this document is all about, the version update folder with this document, as I've been busy with from the 23rd of August, been busy with the V3 and all the way to today. But today I figured some bugs. There was no utilization of automapper for V1. Obviously they cannot be for V3 on version updates, so I had to do this minor stuff that today. So what I need to do, I need to push, and I'm pushing total number of 49 outgoing commits. Okay, so phone numbers, we need a browser for this. We're going to talk about phone numbers. Okay. This feature, it took me a while to wrap my head around this topic of phone numbers. It's called phone numbers, but firstly let me launch Identical Docs. Now this version is .NET Framework, this version is .NET Core. Both of them are MVC. Well, this one is MVC, this one is currently loading, is 2-in-1. It also has a functionality for .NET Core, this .NET Framework is 2-in-1. It's MVC. Currently it's MVC. Behind the scenes it has support for Web API. Sorry for that. Okay, let's see. It's Visual Studio. Well, 49 commits went to GitHub, so let's push the same to Azure DevOps. Okay, before we talk about this, let's confirm if those changes they did arrive. Please check me out. I'm on GitHub. I don't know how you can check me out on Azure DevOps, but yeah, I've been busy, particularly on their system. As you can see that this month I've been busy, been busy. So this guy has just been updated 1 minute ago, which is fantastic. So in total 1,939 commits in total. Yeah, see, an hour ago I've been busy. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about this feature. I'm gonna show you this slide just to remind you that when I built this system called Identical Docs, this gentleman is my client. This gentleman is his customer or a visitor. So when he comes with a document that he would like to be printed or being copied out of, he comes to this guy as either first timer, which is a visitor, or a regular customer. But this guy is my client. So this guy has registered the account and then has confirmed their phone number, right? So I just want to show you something. Let me log in as the administrator. Okay. Now this functionality can only or this feature can only be explored by the administrator on the MVC, which is the admin portal. Okay, so I'm authenticated as admin. So now I want to go to the users and I want to show you something. So these users, all of them, these users, let's go and use example of Monati, right? This guy as the user, he's a male. This is his email. He confirmed his email and he provided the phone number and he confirmed the phone number, and then the account's not deleted, and this is when it was created. So I'm gonna focus on these two things. So this is for the actual account on this platform, Identical Docs. But if you look at this tab, these tasks, there's a feature for phone numbers. Like I said, only administrator can interact with this feature called phone numbers. So what was the idea of this guy? Let me tell you what was the idea. Okay, so the idea is this. This guy, it's my client, right? All these people are my clients, but these people are what we call the visitors or the customers of these clients. So for example, Monati could have all 8 visitors and all customers, right? So these people, Loomstar, if he's gonna make a business with Monati, right? For Monati to be able to contact Loomstar, he will need to know information about Loomstar, especially the phone number. So this is when I invented this system. He only needs to get hold of a phone number, but because we're developers, we have to, think deeper into specification of this feature. For example, we need a table called phone numbers. Please pay attention. I'm going to get to Visual Studio right now, but I need to show you the background of this feature, right? So we need a table called phone numbers. We need the name, the app ID, phone number, verification code, is code verified and created on. So I'm going to leave this as it is. I'm going to close this one. We'll come back to this in a second. So let me go and now show you how these pieces are wired together. Okay, so this is .NET Core Web API project, and this is 2-in-1, which is MVC and Web API for .NET Framework. So I'm going to start with this one. So I'm going to spend most of the time here and show the difference only that were made or that are made in .NET Core environment. Okay, so I'm gonna start with the controller, Web API. Please pay attention. But before we start with the controller, okay, now it's fine. V1. So I'm gonna go to this feature. It's on general. Please watch the folder structure, how properly organized I am. So I'm gonna go to general folder. I'm gonna go to the phone numbers underscore V1 controller. Okay. This is a V1 because there's a V2 and now there's a V3. While this is loading, wait, let me give it a couple of seconds while Visual Studio wakes up because it's been running for hours in idle mode. Okay, so now currently I'm able to show you the portal that gets to be utilized by me, which is MVC, and now I'm showing you the back end, which is Web API, and then there's a database file, and then the only piece that's missing is the client utilizing this Web API to talk to the database, which is a Xamarin. With that being said, I'm still gonna do extensive series. It's going to be a major series on Xamarin, how I show a live demo. Currently, I'm not going to do that, or I'm unable to do that, but not just I'm unable with this computer because of the graphics that are, not supported to do my stuff, but because it's gonna occupy, it's gonna be too much, to do a live demo. But I want to show the code when I do the live demo on a specific topic on Xamarin. Okay, now it seems like we are back. Okay, so like we said, this is V1, right? And please watch my other previous videos where I talked about contracts. You understand everything here. I'm not going to reference this document. I just want to focus on what I'm doing. Please watch these videos that are part of overview of Web API, because then if I say previous video, it's part of one of these videos. Okay, so let me pin this guy. What we need, On line number 17, we need application DB context. So let's go to DAL project. So this DAL, identity folder, application DB context class. Let's give it a couple of seconds. There we go. And then we are interacting with phone numbers, right? So on line number 35, we need this entity data model phone number. So we're gonna go to tables, general, and then here is entity data model. We need all the classes that are making this feature work. Okay, so we don't need anything else on this project. So going back to the controller, line by line, so we need this I send SMS service. So that one is gonna be from the services SMS folder. I send SMS service, we need that because it's been referenced. There's an interface, we need the implementation of it. Give it a couple of seconds. Okay, and then we're gonna close. What else do we need? We need the route, API route underscore v1. So let's go to contract, web API v1, API route underscore v1, and then we're gonna be focusing on phone numbers static class. Here it is. Okay, what else do we need? Because there are two endpoints. The first one is send code phone number, and this one it's verify code phone number. So these are two endpoints. Okay, and then we need this request send code for phone number request v1 Visual Studio wake up. So while we are here, let's go to request general, and here is send code. So we need this guy. Give it a couple of seconds. There we go. And then we need to verify phone number, verify code for phone number request v1. Here it is. So we need this request object as well, and then that's it. And then let's see, within the body, what do we need? We need a class called to generate. So let's go and look for that class called generate. It's on help us web API generate. I'll talk about this one in a second because I'm showing all the classes that are making this feature work. And then what else do we need here? Okay, and then let's see, what do we need here? Okay, now we can start line by line. The main focus is going to be the controller, right? So line number 17, so we need this object being instantiated application DB context, right? So this is the class that is responsible to talk to the database. I'm using SQL Server. Okay, and my database is in production, by the way. And this guy, it's deployed. This is a production web application. I'm not running things locally. I'm not running Amash anymore. I'm a genius. So this guy, let's go to, if you didn't know that you can now, show other tabs that may have been hidden, this way you go. That's why I love Visual Studio. I hate Visual Studio Code. I have it. Here it is. I really use this nonsense. Okay, so let's go to application DB context class. Like I said, the guy that's responsible to talk to the database. And then this line 35, there's a property of type DB set, and now injecting phone numbers entity model, and now has created a property that we can use to interact with this table called phone numbers. So now we are done with this guy. And then we need the phone numbers entity data model. Here it is. So now this guy, this one makes up the table, and this is these are what makes up the columns in the table. So the name of the table, phone numbers, and then it has a phone number ID, which is a primary key. All of them are required. This is the standard best practice. Please note that you need to secure what goes into a database by using or adding required attribute, but you still need to verify that when it comes to the request. And by the way, speaking of the request, in MVC, we're talking about MVVM, right? Models, view models, and then the views, right? That's MVVM, right? But in Web API world, we talk of controllers, API controllers, and request and responses. We don't talk view models in here. We do not use that ugly word view models. No, we don't do that, right? You got that. But I want you to pay attention to this entity data model. This is what makes up the entire table. So when we get to the request, I want you to pay attention. Good. So this is a primary key. This app ID, what it simply means is that this app that's currently on Google Play Store, when you install it for the first time behind the scenes, but we'll do that. I'm excited about showing how I constructed this app, right? This is my app. But now when you launch it, it generates what we call app ID. It's of type GUID. And then it uses its shared preferences to store it internally. Okay, so this guy. So that's what the purpose of app ID comes from, to know, okay, this person is registering their phone number in order to be contacted by my clients. In this case, we're talking about a gentleman. Let's give him Frank, the guy who prints documents or who makes copies, right? Frank, that's the name of my client, right? So he will need to contact the customer or visitor based on the app ID that generated the request for a document to be either printed or copied. The customer name, we need the name of the customer. So Frank can say, hey, Lungstar, your document is ready. You can come and fetch them. Okay. We need the customer phone number. I notice it's of type string. We need the verification code of type string. We need is the Boolean flag if the code is verified. This is very important. I'll tell you why. And then please, like I said, please pay attention to this, what I'm doing, because when we get to this Xamarin major series, all of this will make sense when we do it live, like live. So we are checking if that code is gonna be verified, if it's verified or not, and when was this request, because this is the best practice to know when something was done. Okay, so note this guy. I'm gonna come back to this class. I don't want to destroy it yet. So we are done with this line, and then we need this guy. I send SMS service, but I don't want to get to this guy yet. I want to show you how we get to talk to this guy, but then we are using dependency injection. Funny enough, there is dependency injection, but I'll get to it at a later stage. Okay, then we have the constructor where we are injecting this I send SMS, but we'll talk about it. I'll come back to it. So then we have endpoints, right? The first endpoint, these comments are for Swagger purposes when we document this API, right? So then we spoke about in the previous video HTTP verbs or HTTP methods. In this case, we're expecting post. So the mobile application, I think we have the settings page. Let me show if we don't, but I believe we have the settings screenshot. Here it is. So let me open this guy. See this? But like I said, we'll do this in live. This is settings tab. This is where you give us the username. That's the customer. Let me go back to phone number, customer name. That's where we get it. And what else do we see? We see if you want to be notified for a pickup, but when you scroll down, but I'll do this. When you scroll down, that's where you add the actual phone number. Okay, but I'll show this. All right, so let's go back. So we're expecting that when they click that button, update this button, it's going to trigger post, and we'll talk to this web API. And then the route, let's go to this class, and then we're going to look for phone number static class. So API route. So this is a public static class phone numbers where we're going to focus on line number 34. Send code phone number. It has a base, version number, and the actual route for this endpoint. So the mobile application knows this guy, and the desktop application will soon know this guy, because I'm still going to do this, replicate what I have on Xamarin to WPF for .NET Core. Okay, so we are done with that. And then the response type is, you see this void, it's crappy because I'm still gonna revamp this. Now I'm gonna come back, I think from tomorrow, do a research that how do I say a response type is of type better request, because I can't say response type, the type is a void. This is crazy, this is stupidity. This is what creates bugs. because this is not how web API should be developed and programmed. This is stupidity, but I've learned these things recently. Okay, and now this is a public endpoint. It needs to be exposed. It's asynchronous endpoint. Returns HTTP action result. This is the name of the endpoint, right? And it takes in this request, right? So let's go look at this request. Send code. Remember when I said remember this entity data model class, this one? Now, when we are requesting for when we are sending the code, so the mobile application, when you click that update, you are requesting for the code to be sent back to you, right? So the code will then prompt you to verify your number. That's the whole purpose, right? So that's send code. So here I'm expecting the app ID to know the app ID, and this will talk about the sole intent of app ID while we are requesting app ID from the user's devices. So we are requesting the app ID, we are requesting the name of the customer, and we're expecting expecting the phone number, all of them, because this is a request, right? Now it has a required attribute on each property. I'm expecting this guy to be type GOIT. I'm expecting this guy to be type string, this guy to be type string. So this guy, this display attribute is for sole purpose of a cleaner documentation of web API, especially when we are testing it. Okay, so that's why we need to have these display attributes, right? So all of them are required, but notice line number 8, we are then introduced to this validator attribute. Then we are introduced to another class. So let's go to request a validator. So this one we don't need anymore to make a room for this guy. So let's close here. Let's go to validators. We did cover validators, but now I'm going deeper. So let's go to general, send code for validator. Check this. The only thing that I care about validating, can you believe it? Funny enough, we need to bring this guy back. Let me do this. And then you should ask yourself, what are you willing to validate? I hope Visual Studio is not going to become unresponsive. Thank goodness. Okay, so because on this is send code phone number requires v1, right? I have 3 properties: app ID, customer name, customer phone number. But why am I validating only phone number? So based on my requirements, this guy, there's no way to validate a GOIT type. Just know when you are using Fluent validation, because I'm using Fluent validation, I'm still gonna come back and do a research on this, because I'm assuming that you understand how GOITs are being structured, right? So there's no way, a cleaner way of validating this guy. I did try before, so I only rely and depend on the required attribute. Okay, and then the name, where can we validate there? Really, just give us something. But this guy, we should at least say that the length should not be less than 5 characters and should not be more than, let's say, 50 characters. So this is justifiable to have it to be validated. But the only thing I cared about was to validate phone number. So, but you should build it according to your needs, but make sure that your needs make sense, your specification. So rule 4, obviously this is a Fluent validation. Just append validator towards the end of the class name, because inherits from abstract validator, comes from Fluent validation. It's a base class for object validators that takes in that request model. And then we only need the constructor, and then rule 4 for this property, which is customer phone number, where we're saying the length should be exact 10 characters. As you can see, exact 10 characters. And then we have this error message, right? So I'm gonna go to this guy, but I can just show like this without really opening the entire. Okay, so in this case, we're gonna focus on this error message. It's gonna say, well, this one, line number 8, it's gonna say the customer phone number length should be 10 characters. So this is to make sure that we are tightening up our web API generally. Cool. So now you understand the request. Then we can go back to the controller to say, okay, we're expecting 3 things, right? So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna check if the model state is not valid. If it's not valid, we're gonna return better request. Like I said, the thing that I need to show here, we are showing unable to send the code for the phone number from the user due to validation errors. That makes sense, but we need to show that this is what we are also gonna be returning, right? Another thing, okay, once we're done, please pay attention to this. When we get to .NET Core, this if statement is not there. We did cover this extensively on this video marked validation filters. Cool. Then on line 45, what we are doing is that we're going to go to now generate class where we're going to use this random verification code method. Generate random verification code. So let's go to the generate. So this is generate, right? So this is my own silly algorithm, right? And then the length is 5 characters only. I'm wondering why. No, there's a file name. I see, it's fine. It can't be 5 characters, it should be 6 characters. So I created one class to generate a random file name. We'll come back to this. It has references. And also I generated the same class to cater for this method random verification code. This is what we're going to be focusing on. So you see only the numbers from 1 to 0, and then the length should be 6, and then we're using the random object, and then randomly using do while, and then we're going to return that verification code. So we're done with this class. So the verification code will be here with the 6 characters, and then we're going to use this line 47 where we're going to ask this guy that talks to database, listen, go and talk to this table called phone numbers. There we're going to use a first or default async instead of using where. So this is safer because where it's not asynchronous, but first or default it's asynchronous. So first or default, listen, go in there and then search. Check this. Notice and pay attention to how genius I am. Now, I said we'll come back to this. These app IDs, this app, for example, Longstar. This is Longstar, right? So there's already an app ID that was generated by my app on his device, right? So we're gonna check based on, let's say Longstar is doing this thing again. We're gonna check, listen, what comes in based on this request. We're gonna look for that app ID. Do we have it within this table called phone numbers? If we did find it, this guy, it's not null. That means you're gonna skip this if statement, and then we're gonna come to this else statement, and we'll come back to the else part. But let's say on this table, do I appear? Okay, let me just say Kamu is one of my friends. Kamu is not on the list. Kamu, he's the one that's sending the request. So obviously the ID doesn't exist within this table called phone numbers, right? So this will be null. This object will be null. As you can see, the object name is phone numbers, right? And phone numbers is coming directly from DAL, right? It's the identity data model. Okay, cool. So now it's null. If it's null, because I did test this thing extensively and came up with this use case scenario. To say if it's null, we're going to construct an object of the phone numbers. Okay, now we're going to go and say, listen, the app ID that comes in, you're going to go there. The customer name, this is Gamu, go there. And then his phone number is going to go there. Now look at the verification code. The verification code, because it was generated, let's say verification code in this case, it's 1 2 3 4 5 6. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 will go there, right? Now I could have easily used AutoMapper. Maybe I should use AutoMapper because I learned something about AutoMapper, even though we don't have, we might not have on this request, but we do, no, on this request we don't have a verification code, right? Yes, we don't have, because remember these are only 3 properties that are coming in. So I can still use AutoMapper, but I'll investigate that only these guys, they qualify to be auto-mapped using AutoMapper. Okay, so but you're saying 1 2 3 4 5 6 is gonna go here. Then when we are done with this object, we're gonna now prepare this guy to be added to this table. That's the only thing that we do here. But in the case that it was Loonstar, in this case, because we do see the record for Loonstar, and then it's going to check based on this app ID. Okay, in the case of Loonstar, we did find that what comes in, it's indeed there. Yeah, it's the same thing, right? First of default. So we define the value. So this guy, it's not null. It's gonna skip it. This if statement is gonna come to the else part. Now the else part, we still need to know the name. You see, the best practice, it doesn't make sense. If that's the case, why can't I just use what comes in here? Why am I forcing to get the name from the request? But it's okay. I think the best part is just get the name, because you are drinking the name in any case. I can easily get the name there if this guy is not null, right? Which is the else part. But it's fine, just get the name, because we are drinking the name also as part of the object and the phone number. Okay, but this one is very important. Or maybe Loonstar, yes. Now this is justifiable. Maybe Loonstar changed the number. Remember the first time when you download and install my app, it generates a GUID. It gets to be saved on the share preferences. It doesn't change, right? That's the first time. And then you do that. You go to the settings page and then you register your phone number. The second time you want to register a different phone number on the same app, it's allowed. So the same app now has been run the second time, but the app ID is the same thing, right? So maybe Loonstar might change the name to be Lungile. So in the case, yes, this is justifiable to get the name still from the request and the phone number, and then the same verification code. That's why it's outside that 1 2 3 4 5 6. And then what we're gonna do, we're gonna say, listen, just go and tell it is code verified. Let's say previously it was verified, but it's gonna have to remove the current phone number. So if this number 083, it's gonna be substituted with this number, or let's just say 081, right? It's gonna remove that one. So we are saying, listen, but we need you to toggle is code verified now to be false, and then we're gonna use now application DB context dot entry method to prepare the state to be modified, the record to be modified. Once I'm done, then I'm gonna get inside a try and catch block, because this is susceptible to throw an issue. Okay, well, this guy, when we save the changes and it's asynchronous, that's why we need to have it to be inside a try and catch block. Maybe you can leave a comment that should this entire code be inside try catch, a try block. I don't know. And then we come to this guy that I said I'll come back, because then after this guy I send SMS. Okay, we don't need this anymore. Let me try to clear what we see here. Okay, remember that I send SMS service. Here is, we have it. So this is the interface I send SMS service. We did cover this because it's making use of, look at this. It's making use of a project called API, SMS API.identical.co.za. This is a project I developed when I was busy with this series, with this YouTube channel. It's .NET Core Web API project. So I'm using a one centralized project to send out SMSs. There's a video particularly for this, how I did it. It's also on version control. So we need an interface. It's going to return a boolean and then send SMS. It needs a phone number and the body. So this is the interface. The implementation of the interface. Listen, we're going to use HTTP client, construct the view model. This is the only time I'm using the view model to get the phone number, to get to phone number, body to body. So I have this object that I'm going to be sending to be serialized and to be converted into JSON. And then I'm going to say it needs to be application JSON. The content type, I'm expecting the response to be that. And then I'm going to post it. And I'm using the credentials where I get the URL for where it's going, and then I'm returning if it was a success or not. So this is the guy that's responsible for sending the actual SMS. So this is why we needed an instance of that interface, and we are using constructor to inject it. But how is it registered? I'm glad you asked. So let's go to app_start and let's go to MVC grid. You find this class in Ninject Web Common class. So this Ninject, it's a DI container. this is where I get to register that I send SMS service, and using that implementation of send SMS service. So that's how I register it. And remember, this is .NET framework. So now we have the instance, right? We're using constructor to inject that guy. So then we are saying, listen, this is going to be the body where I'm going to use a string interpolation. Hello, the name, and then I'm going to have an empty lines. This is your verification code. I'll show this live when I do Xamarin live demo. The code 12345 only valid for 5 minutes from my technical docs team. So that's a body, and then I just use that instance to send the actual SMS, and then it triggers the project I just ran on Firefox to do the rest. And I still need to find a way to use iLogger to get, if there's a DB update exception, let's make sure that we track that using logger system. I'm still gonna make sure there's a logger on the system, and then when I return OK, and that's it. Like I said, the content on this YouTube channel doesn't exist anyway. I'm not going long intentionally, but I'm showing stuff that doesn't exist on the internet with a real life system. Hence, I'm taking time. So that's endpoint number 1. The endpoint number 2, we have the summary, where we're gonna verify the code. That 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 6 has been sent. We're now gonna verify the code from the user to the system, and we're expecting 200 and 400, right? And this time, look what we are using: HTTP put. HTTP put. Interesting. And then we're gonna go again to the API routes v1. This time we're gonna look at verified code. So this time we're gonna look at line 35 where we verify the code. So this is the URL, the route for the endpoint. So we are done with this class. I'm not coming back to it. And then again, I still need to research how I'm gonna show this better request response type to be better request or 404, which is not found. But I do know OK. Now, OK, obviously it's void because it doesn't show anything. It doesn't return anything. Okay, so we have the request. This time it's verified code. Now, this was the best practice to separate them in their own classes. Please do not make them to be the same thing. So let's see what this class is all about. So here we're still expecting the ID to make sure that yes, this is the correct code for the correct user that's requesting, and then the actual code. Only the basic stuff. And then obviously it has this request a validator. So let's go to the validator. So we are done with this guy. We are only asking app ID and verification code. So let's go back again to validators. This time verify code validator. So this is what we are validating against, and we're only validating verification code to say the length should be exact 6 characters. 6 characters. And then the error message, if we do this, it shows now let me see, verification code, phone numbers. The verification code length should be 6 characters. Okay, so that will be the error message. So we are done with the validator. Now, to quickly wrap up, we're still going to check if the model state is valid or not. If it's not valid, return better request. And then what comes in again, we still need to use the same thing to say, listen, go and check the app ID that comes in. If it's in there, in the table, meaning that what comes in is this app ID, right? So that's what comes in. If yes, we found it, and using the AND operator, and now check the verification code. Why are we checking verification code? If verification code is the same as this one. Oh, because I saved 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, let's pretend this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And this guy obviously it's false, which is the flag automatically it's false, right? And if we did find the record, that's a condition. Return the object. If the object is null, we could not found it if one of those conditions failed. But if we did find it, we're gonna then toggle is code verified from false to be true, and we're gonna use entry method to change the state to be modified, and we're gonna use a try to attempt to save the changes asynchronously. Again, through that. And once we are done, we're going to use this dispose method, overriding this dispose method to do garbage collection. So this was the controller. We're not done, but we are done with .NET Framework. I'm only going to show how .NET Core looks like by only looking at the controller. V1, this is .NET Core project, by the way. So let me go to general, phone numbers, V1. So what's different here? Now the first thing that you can notice is that I don't have that application to be context, but I only have iPhone number service interface. So that's the first thing we're going to look at. So close this guy. I'm not going to look at the other things that they're pretty much the same, but the service is very important. Services, V1, general for phone numbers, and then iPhone numbers service for V1. This is the guy. Look at this one, how it has so many methods, and this is how you program in .NET Core. So they're all asynchronous. So the very first one is going to be get. So this one is get for send code, endpoint, phone number, using that app ID. The second one is going to be post, where we are sending, waiting for this guy and the verification code. The third one is going to be of type put for send code endpoint, or we're expecting this object, or where yes, we're expecting that object and this object and this variable, or this value from the variable. And then the fourth one is get for verification code, so where we are passing the verification code request. And lastly, we are verifying the code, where we are passing in the phone number object. So this is the interface, the implementation of this interface, because it's chaotic. So this is where now we get to use it, that application DB context, where we are using a depletes injection, right? And we're also using that I send SMS service, where we're using depletes injection. Where are they being registered? On the installers. We did cover installers in our previous video. Please watch that video, DB installer. So application DB context is already being wired up. And then, but I sent, where is iSMS? That's a very interesting thing. Where is I send SMS? Where is this guy being injected from? MVC installer. Oh yes, on the MVC installer, sorry. There we go. Where we register dependency, this guy to inside dependency injection, or to the dependency injection container. Okay, so that's what we registered there. So basically, these two guys, we're using constructor to inject them, and then this is where the methods now begin, and we have the helper method. So this one, I think we're pretty much done. Let me just do this. For us to get, for send code endpoint, we are only requiring the app ID. So this is where we're gonna check, listen, do we know this app ID? Do we know this record using the app ID? That's the only thing I'm doing. The second one, this is post, where we are actually sending for the first time. So we are expecting those three properties: app ID, customer name, customer phone number, and the code, right? And we are doing exactly what we did from .NET Framework. And then we are adding it to application DB context, and then we are saving the changes. If everything went well, and I feel like this is the best practice, if succeed, only then send SMS. Yes, that's the best practice. That if he succeeded, don't waste SMSs, don't even do anything for performance sake. If he succeeded, if not, skip this, don't send SMS if failed for whatever reason. And then I'll come back to this guy because it's also here where we're using this helper method send SMS, where it's expecting phone number and the code. Then this one, it's when you have the phone number but you want to change the phone number. So this put, we require the object, yes, the request, and the verification code. These two I can justify. Why are we requiring the object? I'll come back to it. I'll look at the use case for it. So obviously, like we're getting back the object, okay, and then we are saying that the entry for the state should be for this the state of this entity should be modified. Okay, save changes. If succeeded, send SMS. Okay, so now it's our time to look at this helper method. It expects the send request object and the verification code. So we're gonna construct the body, okay, so that we can get the name of the customer. It's the same thing, and then the verification code, and we're gonna use it that dependency injection instance for sending some SMS to send an actual SMS. And then we're gonna come back to the fourth method. This one is of type get for verify code endpoint, where we are passing in the verify code request object. And in there, we're just gonna check, listen, do we have this, do we know this app ID in a database? Do we also know this verification code 123405? If that's the case, then return that object. Lastly, this is where we get to actually verify, where we're changing the state, getting in the object phone number, where we are changing the state of it to be true, preparing the entity state, for this entry to be modified, and actually doing this. But this is wrong. I still need to check if it succeeded or not. If it's not, maybe I can return. See, we have too many issues when we program, but I'm aware of them. I'll make time to change them. So this is the guy. Finally, like I said, the only thing was this guy, where we are now injecting it using constructor, that iPhone number service. And these are the two endpoints, and then this attribute is different from the .NET framework. This one is saying produces response type of, you see this one is better because it shows this is a better request of type error model or response model. We'll come back to this in a second. And then 200 if everything went very well without retaining anything. But what's new in .NET Core is that this attribute of HTTP post, they make it easy to also cater for the route in the same line, which is, I love it. The same route that we saw in the framework, the same thing for HTTP put on the same line within the constructor. We can pass in the route, which is helpful. And then look at how easy it is this side to say, listen, again, we have to generate the same class that has the same method random verification code, from utilities. We put it here, and then we're gonna use this get, where we're gonna get first. If it's not null, only then we're gonna use post for the first time, passing this request that comes in and the code. And then else, if we know Lungstar, he wants to move from Lungstar to Lungile, we're gonna use put, and then we will pass in still the object because we did find it, right, based on the ID, and then the request, and then the code, and then return okay. Look at how clean it is. Look at how clean it is, as opposed to this. As opposed to this one. This one is chaotic. This one is chaotic. Look at it. It's chaotic. But look at the controller for the .NET Core. Clean, classic, simple. The last endpoint. I'll come back to this. I hope I'm not gonna forget. So the request now, when you have 1 2 3 4 5, we're gonna send it using the get, to check if the object exists. But why am I passing the entire object? That's very interesting. Why am I passing the entire object? Oh yeah, it makes sense. I'm passing the entire object because I'm checking for two things. I'm checking the app ID. I'm also checking the verification code. Okay, makes sense, justifiable. Okay, so that entire object, if everything went well, if we didn't find anything, or maybe 1 2 3, it's 1 2 3 5 5 6. There's no 4. It's gonna say 404 not found, and you can see there's a 404 corresponding there. And other than that, just go and then verify that and then return okay. So I'm still gonna rewrite the command for Swagger, the order. You see there's no 404 here. There's no 404, but yet we have a 404 as the response type that gets we produce, because we are checking for there's a use case for it. I'm probably I am dehydrated. I've been talking for 49 minutes straight up without drinking water or taking a break, but I hope I covered everything. I hope this makes sense. I'm still gonna make sure that this is cleaner when it comes to these comments, the order, and then this makes sense. In the core, it's very easy to get these guys. And I want to talk about this error response model. On both the endpoints on .NET Framework, they have this if not model states valid and it's going to return 404, but in .NET Core there's no such a thing where we are checking, but in fact it is checking, because this error response model, it's automatically being wired up, not automatically, I did wire it up using utilities, helpers, filters, validation filter. I did an extensive video on this. I'm just showing or reminding because I did validation filter. Like I said, we don't have to write that if statement, but here we are writing a general if not context, whatever context, either it's a phone number, feedbacks, businesses, access pins, version updates, or uploads, or voice messages or notifications, whatever the context, this guy handles it in one place. And then if there was an error, let's say you provided, you clicked it, but there's no verification code on this controller for verification code, it will trigger 404. I've tested this, it works brilliantly, but we don't have to have if not model states valid. So yeah, that's one of the things I want to show. Okay, so this is the feature. I hope you're gonna stick around when I show this live on the Xamarin, as I intend to do the extensive series on this topic of Xamarin, where I get to show a live demo. But for now, I am done, and then with that, thank you very much. Let's meet on the next video where we're going to be talking about uploads, how the actual PDF document, TXT document, Word document, PowerPoint document gets to be printed out by the business owner or a store owner. So I'm going to show that next up tomorrow. So with that being said, thank you very much. Please like the video if you find it helpful. Leave any comment if you have any. Subscribe, click on the notification bell to be notified for more content that I'm going to be dropping soon. With that being said, thank you.